Demon World Supreme and Wonderland Raindrops. But in an iron cage, see dry water droplets as company as the father of the devil, but enjoying life every day. Raindrop fled to the world with his daughter in a fit of anger. Mortal, and say it's your child. I want you to be responsible for their mother. You are shocked, but still happily accepted them. Because of your other identity, it is the devil of the devil world. You decided to retire after you bloodied the fairy world. Hide yourself as a mortal. The hermit has been in the world for 100 years. 10 years ago, I was poisoned and fell into smoke. Escaped to the house where you live. You wanted to get rid of him, but found him poisoned. If you are kind, you will treat with him for 3 days and 3 nights. He didn't kill you when you woke up, but left silently. I thought his cultivation was not low. Should avoid getting yourself into small talk. Until I appeared in front of me today with a little baby. Formerly like smoke. The cultivation base on the body has dropped a lot compared to silver hair has also become so much so that you don't remember after thinking about it for a long time. If Ryan sees that you don't recognize him, the rope of anger and disappointment can't help but appear on the face. This heartless man took away his first time. To save the child, he went to great lengths. I finally escaped from the fairy world to find him. He doesn't recognize himself at all. Rui sighed in disappointment, holding up the fallen leaf red in my arms. She's your daughter. You are responsible for me and him. The little girl is beautiful, and there's you inexplicably close and familiar you. I liked it at first sight, although you are sure that this is your child. But still speak, make sure if this is your child. Luo Ryan didn't burn the koi. If you don't want to be responsible, I'll take the kids and leave. But don't insult me and my child. After saying that, Luo Ryan turned around. A touch of first hesitation flashed in my eyes. He dared to take a leap, chased to Luo Ryan's side, and they grabbed him. I didn't say I wasn't responsible. The falling smoke device in my heart wants to break free, but I found that my body had no strength. I fell headfirst into your arms, passed out. You hurriedly bring Luo Ryan back to the house, holding his pulse in my hand. Your face is getting colder and cold. 100 years of poetry. It's rare to have killing intent in my heart again. Careful diagnosis revealed all his meridians have been damaged. The fairy bones were also dug up. Not even a heart. Living on a false heart. There are still several wounds on the back, slightly oozing blood. You feel guilty. The eyes that looked at Luo Ryan also softened a lot. I don't know this decade. What happened to him in the fairy world? But you can also guess that it must not be easy. Otherwise, there was once a dignified end. I'm not going to end up here. When he was at his most desperate, bring your children to find yourself. Fall into wisdom with the palm of your hand. Choked his body. Then he gave a kind smile. She waved at Fallen Leaf Red. Asked for his name, and their mother and daughter's previous situation. Fallen Leaf Hung naively thinks you are just good. Strange about his past with his mother. Happily told. Since he was born a director, most of the time, living in a small closet, mother said she was playing hide and seek with. Tell him to hide and keep quiet. Only every time when the mother comes back, he will be carried out to be with his mother. Then one time he hid in the closet for days. Mother didn't come to find him. He's so bored, so I couldn't help but sneak out to find it. I didn't expect to be discovered by others. Then he was brought to a dark iron cage, alone in the dark. He was terrified. Sometimes people come to see him, but they are calling him a building. Those people look so scary. He doesn't like those people, so I've been curling up in the corner until mother comes to find him again. Unlock him from that dark iron cage. Took him away, but wherever you go, there are a lot of people chasing them behind them. Those bad guys hurt my mother. Every night doesn't let them. You heard the cold frost on your face. My heart almost exploded. From the painting of fallen leaves, the outsole can predict what kind of life he has lived. Falling like smoke, secretly hiding from everyone. She gave birth to prevent detection. Hide him in the closet. Trick him into playing hide and until it was later discovered. He had to break the prison. Forcibly escape from the fairy world with Fallen Leaf Red. There must have been a lot of injuries during this period. To rush to the fairy world now. Kill all those who hurt their mother and daughter. But Deciduous Red, I don't know where he lives in the fairy world. All I know is that it is a very wide and beautiful palace, but such temples are everywhere in the fairy world. Couldn't find it anywhere. If it really doesn't work, let the immortal world bleed again. Guanping scolded his precious daughter as a sword. That's a pretty good reason. Fallen leaves looking at your face full of sand, said Daddy with some fear. You look scary. Don't be afraid of the Daddy is thinking about how to deal with those bullies. A badass. Daddy will be angry with you in the future, okay? You rub the red head of the fallen leaves. I'm already thinking about where to start. This is the falling smoke lying on the bed. I slowly opened my eyes. Fallen Leaf Red quickly flew into Luo Ryan's arms. You smiled and got up to leave to make medicine. When I come back, fallen leaves are already lying in Luo Ryan's arms. Sleep with you to sit on the edge of the bed. Slowly float the falling smoke and sit up. Falling like smoke depends on you. The voice was weak and embarrassed to ask your name. He brought the baby here and asked the man to be responsible. He doesn't know the other party's name. My name is Li Yechen. How about you, lady? Hear the name of the lady. If there's a touch of red on the pale cheeks like smoke. His expression was also very awkward. He used to be the empress of a party. Suddenly being called like this, I always feel weird. But if Ryan has nothing to refute, it also defaults to your name. Anyway, I'm afraid his time is running out. Just let him. What about his wife when he is a few days old? After you exchange names, you shake up a spoonful of medicine delivered to Luo Ryan's mouth. Lady drinks medicine. Luo Ryan didn't rush to open her mouth, but looking at the fallen leaves in my arm as he thought about it. If I'm gone, this child is up to you. He wants to take advantage of his injury to stabilize. I will entrust everything to you. He knows his own injuries best. This mortal medicine, it doesn't have any effect on him at all. and you drink medicine as soon as possible in order to make you very perfunctorily. Luo Ryan was about to say something else. You took the opportunity to shove the spoon into his mouth, suddenly being forcibly fed. Luo Ryan was about to get angry. That's when I realized something was wrong. You can feel it. Peng Wang's medicinal spirit spread in his body. The meridians are also being repaired at an extremely fast rate. Ryan couldn't help but ask what kind of medicine this is. You feel guilty. It's me, usually in the mountains. It's just yams picked by hand. If Ryan is dubious, how can an ordinary mountain forest? There are such precious yams. However, in order not to waste precious medicinal effects, temporarily gave up the question. Open your mouth, obedient. Drink every spoonful of your future medicine. Ryan senses your gaze. I raised my doubts and didn't look at you. What's wrong? It's okay. I just think my wife is very charming. Unreasonable. The ball fell like smoke and was caught off guard. His cheeks were red, kissing red lips and lowering eyebrows. After another bite, you take the opportunity to what happened to Luo Ryan. Luo Ryan looked gloomy, shaking his head decisively. The less you know about this, the better. Otherwise, it will be dangerous for you. Ruyan doesn't want you to be immortal. Surprise him, although I know that Ruyan may not tell myself. But you still have no regrets. If you know which side of the immortal world it is, you can directly take a precision strike. The immortal realm is vast. It's really troublesome to find it. It seems that I still have to go to the fairy world and after feeding the medicine. Luo Ryan soon felt sleepy. Fell into a deep sleep. The body continues to absorb the drugs in the body. To slowly cover the quilts for their mother and daughter. Then he got up and walked out of the house. Jump up, transform into a pitch-black divine soul, rush into the sky. The barrier between the concubine shattered in this moment. You are the devil who once killed the 9 immortal jade. He is the celestial empress above 10,000 people. The two who are at odds have a daughter in common. Now I live in a dog cage, eat pig food, and drink dry water every day. Demon lord, you don't know it. The Empress 10 years ago was plotted and poisoned. She had to find a mortal in the mountains to detoxify her. But he doesn't know. You are mortal. It's the devil who recluses among people. Back to the fairy world. Then he gave birth to the child without telling everyone. But I didn't expect to be found. They associated this Empress with the children of mortals are regarded as building. Put him in a dog cage. So the Empress fought desperately to save the child and came to Earth to find you. I want you to be responsible for their mother and daughter. You didn't recognize them. We almost drove them away. Like smoke, the cultivation base on the body has dropped a lot compared to silver hair has also become so much so that you don't remember after thinking about it for a long time. If you don't recognize him, anger and disappointment could not help but appear on his face. This heartless man took away his first time. He went to great lengths to keep the child. I finally escaped from the fairy world to find him. He doesn't recognize himself at all. Ruyan sighed in disappointment, holding up the fallen leaf red in my arms. She's your daughter. You are responsible for me and him. The little girl is beautiful. There's an inexplicable sense of closeness and familiarity. You liked it at first sight, although you are sure that this is your child. But still open. Make sure if this is your child. If the smoke escapes the stone eyebrow coil, if you don't want to be responsible, I'll take the kids and leave. But don't insult me and my child. After saying that, Luo Ryan turned around and a touch of crystal tears flashed in my eyes. How dare you go blind? A dash chased to Luo Ryan's side, and they grabbed him. I didn't say I wasn't responsible. The falling smoke device in my heart wants to break free, but I found that my body had no strength. I fell headfirst into your arms. Passed out. You hurriedly bring Luo Ryan back to the house, holding his pulse in my hand. Your face is getting colder and cold. 100 years of poetry. Ran's heart was killing again. Careful diagnosis, only to find that all his meridians have been damaged. The fairy bones were also dug up, and there was no heart left. Living on a false heart. There are still several wounds on the back, slightly oozing blood. You feel guilty. The eyes that looked at Luo Ryan also softened a lot. I don't know this decade. What happened to him in the fairy world? But you can also guess that it must not be easy. Otherwise, there was once a dignified I'm not going to end up here. When he was at his most desperate, bring your children to find yourself. You gently fall into wisdom with the palm of your hand. Protected his body. Then he gave an amiable smile. She waved at Fallen Leaf Red. Asked for his name, and their mother and daughter's previous situation. Fallen Leaf Hung naively thought you were just curious. This passed with his mother, I happily told. Since he was born a director, most of the time, I've been living in a small closet. Mother said she was playing hide and seek with. Tell him to hide and keep quiet. Only every time when the mother comes back, he will be carried out to be with his mother. Then one time he hid in the closet for days. Mother didn't come to find him. He's so bored, so I couldn't help but sneak out to find it. But I didn't expect to be discovered by others. And then, he was locked in a dark iron cage. Alone in the dark. He was terrified. Sometimes people come to see him, but they are calling him a building. Those people look so scary. He doesn't like those people, so I've been curling up in the corner. Until Mother comes to find him again. Unlock him from that dark iron cage. Took him away. But wherever you go, there are a lot of people chasing them behind them. Those bad guys hurt my mother. Every night doesn't like them. You heard the cold frost on your face. My heart almost exploded. From the painting of fallen leaves in the outsole. Can guess what kind of life he lived. Ruyan secretly concealed from everyone that she gave birth to prevent detection. Hide him in the closet. Trick him into playing hide until it was later discovered. He had to break the prison. Forcibly escape from the fairy world with Fallen Leaf Red. There must have been a lot of injuries during this. You can't wait to rush to the fairy world now. Kill all those who hurt their mother and daughter. But Fallen Leaf Red doesn't know. Where does he live in the fairy world? All I know is that it is a very wide and beautiful palace. But such temples are everywhere in the fairy world. Couldn't find it anywhere. If it really doesn't work, let the immortal world bleed again. King scolded his precious daughter for seeing, and that's a pretty good reason. Fallen leaves looking at your face full of sand, said Daddy with some fear. You look scary. Don't be afraid, Daddy is thinking about how to clean up those. Bullying Grandpa. Daddy will be angry with you in the future, okay? You rub the red head of the fallen leaves. I'm already thinking about where to start. This is the falling smoke lying on the bed. I slowly opened my eyes. Fallen leaf red quickly flew into Luo Ryan's arms. You smiled and got up to leave, but when the medicine came back, fallen leaves are already lying in Luo Ryan's arms. Sleep with you to sit on the edge of the bed. Slowly float the falling smoke and sit. Falling like smoke depends on you. The voice was weak and embarrassed to ask. Your name. He brought the baby here and asked the man to be responsible. But he doesn't know the other party's name. My name is Mrs. Lee Yetchen. Did you hear the name of the lady? Luo Ryan's pale cheeks have a touch of red rime. His expression also seemed to have changed. Once a female emperor, he was suddenly called that. I always feel weird. But Luo Ryan had nothing to refute. It also defaults to your name. Anyway, I'm afraid his time is running out. Just let him. What about his wife when he is a few days old? After you exchange names, you shake up a spoonful of medicine delivered to Luo Ryan's mouth. Lady drinks medicine. Luo Ryan didn't rush to open her mouth, but looking at the fallen leaves in my arms as he thought about it. If I'm gone, this child is up to you. He wants to take advantage of his injury to stabilize. I will entrust everything to you. He knows his own injuries best. This mortal medicine, it doesn't have any effect on him at all. And you drink medicine as soon as possible in order to make him very perfunctorily. Luo Ryan was about to say something else. You took the opportunity to shove the spoon into his mouth, suddenly being forcibly fed. Luo Ryan was about to get angry. That's when I realized something was wrong. He can feel the egg. Huang's medicinal spirit spread in his body. The meridians are also being repaired at an extremely fast rate. Luo Ryan couldn't help but ask what kind of medicine this is. You feel guilty. It's me who is usually in the mountains. It's just yams picked by hand. If Ryan is dubious, in an ordinary mountain forest, how could there be such a precious yam? However, in order not to waste precious medicinal effects, temporarily gave up the question. Open your mouth obedient. Drink every spoonful of your future medicine. If Ryan senses your gaze. I raised my doubts and didn't look at you. What's wrong? It's okay. I just think my wife is very charming. Unreasonable. The ball fell like smoke and was caught off guard. His cheeks were red. Dear, she led the red lips and lowered her eyebrows. After another bite, you take the opportunity to ask to rise and fall like smoke. If Ryan's expression is gloomy, shake decisively. The less you know about this, the better. Otherwise, it will be dangerous for you. Ruyan doesn't want you to be immortal. Amazing thing. Although I know that Ruyan may not tell myself. But you can't help but regret. If you know which side of the fairy world it is, you can directly take a precision strike. The immortal realm is vast. It's really troublesome to find it. It seems that I still have to go to the fairy world in person. Feeding the medicine, Luo Ryan soon felt sleepy. Fell into a deep sleep. The body continues to absorb the life in the body. To slowly cover the quilts for their mother and daughter. Then he got up and walked out of the house. Jump up, turned into a dark soul. Straight to the sky. The barrier between the gods and the immortal shattered in this moment. At the same time, several guards in fairy armor sat around the immortal gate. Chat and drink, talking about the immortal and demon were 100 years ago. And you know what? Hundreds of years ago, the Supreme Night Devil Minister of the Devil World leads Attack my Wonderland. The entire immortal world unites dozens of immortal failed to take down the demon lord. It's called a dark sky. The entire fairyland was almost torn down by the demon lord, your brother me. I was fortunate enough to witness the battle of immortals. She survived. The other guards listened with relish. What happened to the devil in the end? How? I haven't heard any news about the demon lord now. The captain of the guard was about to answer, ascending Xian, but suddenly there was an extremely violent struggle. It's like someone is breaking into the fairy door. All guards stand ready. The long spear in his hand was aimed at the immortal gate. Clouds dissipate. Your figure appears in everyone's field of vision. A group of guards are eyeing you, leaning towards you little by little. And the captain of the guard who told the story before was stunned. The same place looked full of horror. It's like seeing a ghost. The guard next to him noticed. The chief guard doesn't look right. Ask him if he wants to take him down. The words and stuttering of the captain of the guard only said a word. I haven't finished what follows. The guard on the side nodded at the meeting. Immediately direct the people around you to come forward. You glanced coldly at the guards. A wave of embroidered. The guards haven't made any sound yet. It was turned into fly ash by black. Only then did the captain of the guards continue to finish the unfinished words. Take your big head, ghost. He is the devil. The captain of the guard saw you kneeling under my back. You nodded. Show a kind smile. It's been too long since I've been to tell me where the Heaven Dao underground palace. The captain of the guard raised his hand slightly and pointed in a certain direction. Dare not hide it at all. In his opinion, the smile on your face, it was as if death were waving at him. He only wants to die, like those guards, without the slightest pain. Seeing this, you only know the sound. It turns into a dark soul again, flying towards the heavenly palace. In the blink of an eye, he arrived at the sky above the Heaven Dao facing the huge and boundless Tiandao. And shout out the old thing. If you're not dead, get out and see me. The words accompanied by the magic sound spread to the entire Heaven Dao in the underground palace felt their minds explode. They covered their ears in pain. Linked to the bottom, those with lower cultivation strength bled from the 7 orifices. Passed out. Next second, a middle-aged man in a golden robe, speeding out of the palace. Feng Shaobai dares to trespass into the Tiandao underground so rude to my underground palace. The man in front of him looked especially familiar, but I can't remember who it is for a while. You put your hands behind your back. Ask Dao Tiandao, ask Tiandao. What about things? Could it be that I haven't been to the fairy world? Tiandao underground palace. The more I look at you, the more familiar I feel. Gradually remember your identity. It's your demon Dao Supreme Night Demon Minister. Tiandao Evergreen's eyes were filled with horror. 100-year-old fear awakened again at this moment. Compared with the demon lord more than 100 years ago, devil looks kind, unrighteous with mortals without cultivation. I didn't expect anyone in Tiandao Underground Palace to recognize one thing. I am the former devil. It's retired now. Night Demon Minister, you trespassed in the fairy world be peaceful. I really think my Heaven Dao Palace is easy to bully. Although Tiandao Evergreen is afraid in his heart, but as the princess of Tiandao Underground, for the sake of face or the clear media scolded you, you frowned slightly. Your Tiandao Underground, do you feel like you're awake again? It seemed the Heaven Dao Underground Palace was still not demolished demonly last time. Do you really think that for more than 100 years, my world has not changed at all? Now I have also stepped into the love of the late emperor, so that one day, to avenge you for destroying my Tiandao Underground Palace, Tiandao Evergreen looked fierce, with a roar. A terrifying aura of the late emperor erupted. Mighty terrifying crow shattered the palace of Chonglu, which was 100 miles away, crushed to the ground, unable to breathe. Some powerful people can only barely raise their head. Cheers for the might of the princess in her own underground palace. It's the first time I've seen it. Lord Underground Palace's victory. How powerful and domineering this is. Lord Hidden Palace is angry. This will teach you a lesson. This ignorant kid, you helplessly exclaimed. Raise your dark eyes. I lied to the long dragon of heaven. In the next second, 100 feet huge pitch black pound tearing the void. Out of thin air from the top of the Heaven Dao Long Dragon's a loud bang. The whole celestial world trembled at it. Stir the heavenly Dao and the underground palace. The ground the heavenly Dao pressed under the palm of the devil. Spit out a mouthful of blood. I just feel like my muscles and bones are broken. His face was full of fear. Avoid eating and be. It seems that there is no need for this Heaven Dao Underground Palace. You lost with your rich hands. Shouted faintly into the depths of the Heaven Dao Underground Palace. Old man, I know you're not dead. If you don't come out again, I will twist your Tiandao Underground Palace. The voice just fell. Tiandao Underground, a sighing rainbow flew out of the depths. Several long rainbows of different colors followed closely behind. An old man hastily arrived in front of you. Under the Tiandao Underground, countless disciples of the Underground Palace looked up, staring at the ancestors of Tiandao in the sky. Several elders. Great. The ancestor of Tiandao is out of. Not be afraid of that guy. Could it be that he? Can I still compete with my entire Heaven Dao Underground Palace? You can finally give up the old thing. Tiandao Wenshin is looking. Mo fights. His expression was paler than Heaven Dao's long face. This killing god is really not dead. And why did he come back? Which murderer recruited him back? Recall the immortal and demon wars more than 100 years ago. Is full of strength. Initially, the movement of Tiandao Underground Palace and your vaguely guessed that the man in the room was coming. I wanted to hide, but he won't come out again. I am afraid that the entire Heaven Dao Underground Palace brings so many people. Are you ready to play with me? It happens to be more than 100 years, and I haven't done it for a long time. Tiandao Wenshin hurriedly shook his head, accompanied the single smile of his devil is really joking. How can I dare to be the enemy of the demon venerable? The disciples under the underground palace all looking at the heavens wrongly and asking face in the heart, please collapse. Tiandao Wenshin forgot his heavenly axiom long dragon under the demon's clutches. I would believe he was not dead. Attitude is very polite. Tell you politely. I don't know if the devil can put down his great-grandson. If the Heaven Dao Underground Palace is the big deal is to see you again, as long as the foundation is still there. You glanced at Tiandao Changlong and waved your arm. The evil palm of Beijing Kingshan suddenly dissipated the world. After a narrow escape, the long dragon of Tiandao immediately ran to Tiandao Wenshin, tell Dao Lao ancestor, you must seek justice for my Heaven Dao Underground Palace. And he was greeted with a loud, crisp slap. And in front of the disciples of the Underground Palace, abolished the position of princess of the Underground Palace and put it in a forbidden area for 100 years. After the guards dragged away the long dragon sitting on the ground, Tiandao Wenshin handed over and asked politely, what is this so-called? I came today. I want Tiandao Underground Palace to help me do something. I want you and the other 8 forces in the fairy world, in the celestial realm, find out all about a woman named Luo Orion. Information, especially the family background he belongs to. Do you understand? Just tell me the relevant information. I'll handle the rest. You likely stated the purpose of this trip. Instead of slowly finding it in the fairy world, it's better to let the locals in the fairy world do it for you. The old man immediately notified the other deities. Find relevant news for you. Tiandao Lunqian was taken aback. I feel your cold killing intent. Damn guy. Who is bad to provoke? Just provoke this killing god. He also caused him to demolish half of the Heaven Dao. You tell him he'll be back in 3 days. If there is no news by then, the Heaven Dao Underground Palace, after you leave this sentence, it turned into a black rainbow. Leave from the sky above Tiandao Underground Palace. Tiandao Wenshin dare not neglect. Quickly let the disciples of the whole palace go to the major immortal for love like smoke. One-time demon. The news of the night demon's return spread throughout the Wonderland. They all thought that the devil world was going to invade the fairy world. And the other side just woke up falling like smoke. When he opened his eyes, he found a scene that shocked him. That he, the father of the mortal world, is it a demon? You are the devil who once killed the 9 immortal jade. He is the celestial empress above 10,000 people. The 2 who are at odds play together. Now I live in a dog cage, eat pig food, and drink dry water until the empress, who doesn't know your identity, escaped to the mortal world. After learning what happened to her daughter, you directly killed Sister Xian alone and demolished the top sect of an immortal realm. The old sect master of the top sect in the immortal world dare not speak. He doesn't want to suffer the same thing 100 years ago. A celestial catastrophe. You threatened him with the power of the boxing. Ask about his empress in the major immortal wife's message. Otherwise, demolish all his heavenly and underground palaces. After all this, you have returned to the mortal world again. Hide your identity as a demon. But I didn't expect the 4 top powerhouses in the world received the commission of the fairy to catch Ryan mother and daughter. At this moment, one is emitting. A ghostly old man came outside the house. Luo Ryan, who had just woken up. The man outside the house is tomorrow's nervous powerhouse, and it seems that the other party came to find him specially. You are slowly wearing fallen leaf red at this time. He walked from the house to Luo Ryan's side, staring coldly at the ghost. The ghost is overjoyed to see the fallen leaf. The previous adult was the key. Indicate that you want this child. Dare to ask if the fairy is going with the old man, or will the old man take you back in person? If Smoke frowns deeply, there are no animals. I'll go back with you, as long as you let the child go with him. Think about it. Ruyan finally decided to give up on herself. Save the child, and he's also reluctant to part. But there is no way, even if he defeats the immediate support. Wait behind, he's still on the run. Chase, the fallen leaves are red and want to leave when they hear the fallen crying. Smoke, clutching his dress. What a touching mother-daughter relationship. Don't worry, fairy, you're going back with the old woman. That girl also wants to talk to the old woman. Go back is for that man. The old man will kill him. If smoke and salt blend to produce coal, the nails are inserted into the palm of the hand. If Ryan bends over and picks up the fallen into your arms, there's a trace of tenderness in the solemn eyes. Leave it to me here. You take the children and run away into the woods. Promise me not to let the child get hurt. I'll follow up to find you after solving it. If you can't wait for me, you don't have to wait for me anymore. Give up if Smoke doesn't give you a chance to speak. Stand on tiptoe slightly to steady your lips. This is the first time for the two of them kissing each other awake. Your eyes widen slightly in surprise. Husband and child, please. This is the first time he has called you that, because it will probably be the last time. If a palm like smoke stirs the breeze, fly you and your child into the air first. Fell far into the woods of the back mountain. Immediately, the ghost woman in front of him began to fight. In the woods, you hold the fallen leaf red slowly. Fell from midair to the ground. No, the wooden house in the distance has been fiercely moved. Seeing light and black fog flatulence. Head up. You stood up holding the fallen leaf red in your arms, thinking how to avoid being discovered. Get rid of these ignorant abilities as a demon lord, but also the mortal enemy of the fairy world. And if smoke is the fate of the fairy world, if you directly attack in person to expose your identity, it is inevitable that his attitude towards himself will change. The most worrying thing is that take the child directly away from you. So try not to reveal your identity now. The fallen leaves holding your hand at this time are crying and begging you. Dad, let's not leave our mother, okay? Don't leave your mother every night. Daddy promises you. Your mother, he won't have it. Daddy won't leave your mother behind. The voice just fell. A thick voice suddenly ringing from the woods ahead. One of the strong dancers, slowly walking out of the dark woods, looking at you with blood and fallen leaves red. You can see that the fallen leaves are afraid. Face-looking smiled and stroked the back of her head. Close your eyes and plug your ears, okay? Daddy did a trick for the big red eyes full of leaves. But still obediently close your eyes and plug your ears. Seeing this, your eyes look at me madly. His expression instantly changed to incomparably cold. It's like looking at a dead person. I don't want my daughter to see blood. Cruel side. So it's cheaper for you. You can disappear from this market. Say it. A ball suddenly appeared on the body of the dance maniac. Dark black eyes instantly start painting skin and bone. Systemic ablation. Every night you see Daddy do a trick. Make the big bad guy disappear. Fallen Leaf Red's eyes lit up when he heard that. Daddy is awesome. Daddy does tricks every night. Disappear the bad guy. Don't tell others about things, okay? Not even the mother. After solving all this, you coaxed it into a hidden tree and drew a barrier needle around. Thought that is going to fight the bad guys. You stay here and don't run around. And on the other side, falling like smoke with hidden poison, still desperately trying to kill the ghost talisman, but the poison keeps spreading in the body. If the body like smoke feels weaker and the vision is getting blurry, the remaining two powerhouses have also heard the sound and rushed over and saw Su Shen and Lumi. I feel more and more despair. These two people are also with the ghost man. Falling like smoke at this time, I can only watch the sword light attack. Just as the sword light was about to touch him, a figure suddenly quietly appeared in front of him, dressed in black robes and facing away from him. I can't see the face at all. The crowd was shocked again. Lu Jian's right opinion, that is enough to open up mountains. It was so easily resolved. You throw a pill with a mask on, fly into the hands of falling smoke, said in an old and deep voice. This pill can relieve the bloating poison in your body, help you recover from your injuries. Take it. Then he reached out his palm to the three of them. Twist lightly. The bodies of several people, limbs begin to twist and reverse involuntarily. The crackling sound of bones breaking. Severe tearing pain. Order. Several people sent out terrible pain. Call next second. Doubt a black rock spread from a few people. Turn to fly ash. Luo Ryan stood up and gave thanks. Thank you for your help. If there is a chance in the future, the younger generation must come to the door. However, thank you. When he looked up, that senior is like the afterlife. Silently disappeared without a trace. Ruyan didn't care too much. Maybe a certain film until Master doesn't want people to know his name, right? After settling down, I can't help but feel glad that I survived. Luo Ryan suddenly remembered you and Fallen Leaf Red, who escaped. Another episode in the hearts of the two, rushing towards the woods, while anxiously shuttling through the woods, while shouting. Not long, the trees ahead rustled. You walked out of the woods with the fallen leaves in your arms. If Ryan sees that the two of you are safe and sound, finally breathed a sigh of relief. The nervous heart finally let go. Back at the lodge, you discussed it. finally decided to leave here. In order to leave the forest more quickly and efficiently, I would simply hold you like a princess, hugged in my arms, leap directly over the woods. During this period, you talked about demons, so you tentatively ask him what he thinks of the devil race. William didn't expect you to suddenly mention the devil race. His expression suddenly condensed, saw it almost without hesitation. Demon people are fierce and cruel. All evil often invades other walks of life, cause unrest from all walks of life. Everywhere, there are still evil and cruel people everywhere. Li Wenyan has complicated feelings. The lady is actually, maybe the demons aren't so bad now. Since you ruled the demon world, the devil world is very different. It just seems that the outside I still have the same impression of the devil world. Ruyan frowned slightly. The ferocity of the demons is beyond your imagination. You have never seen a demon, so I don't know much about them. Especially the legendary new supreme of the devil world, Daredevil. It is rumored that when he unified the demon world hundreds of years ago, almost wiped out half of the people who rebelled against him. After that, he led the army of the devil world to invade the fairy world. Was radical. Destroy most of the fairy world. If you meet someone from the devil race, must run away. Never get involved with them. There is no good person among the demons. It's hard for you to say anything more. Lady, you are right. Remember for father. After you moved to Nanli City on the border, Betty in the celestial realm continued to inquire about the person who wants to chase and kill his father. Lu Orion was taken by the powerhouses of the immortal and was brought back to his sect for cultivation. However, their sect, the door should be some relatively low-key shadows. Sect, you are secretly inquiring about the news. One side, with this lady and daughter who have never seen many faces. Cultivate emotion. I thought days like this would go on like this. Go until you find the perimeter, the new neighbors. It was all before him in Capricorn, the demon prize at hand. If this is discovered by the lady, my good days are coming to an end. You are the devil who once killed the 9 immortal jade. He is the celestial empress above 10,000 people. But to people who are at odds, now it's turned into a mortal husband and wife. Even gave birth to a lovely daughter for you. Because the empress doesn't know the identity of your demon lord. I just think you're immortal. I thought this every day. Days spent with the rain will go on like this. Until you find out that many neighbors have moved into the neighborhood. It turned out to be in the devil world. Demon general under his command, small to street vendor, soldiers in the city. There's a fate of the Lord of the Rings. It turns out that you are learning about yourself when you are humiliated by beasts in a rage. He rushed to the demolished Shaban's top sect. This matter not only spread to the colleagues in the major immortal, it has also spread to the ears of the demon. Because as a demon lord, you suddenly retired. Before this, the high-level demons thought you were dead. Until you are realistic again. They can't wait to find you. Before you move to Nanladuching. As one of the demon generals, the night god has found wants you to return to the devil's reign over their demons again. You dislike it very much. Any one of you can be the demon lord. Who loves to be this devil? Anyway, I can't be a little bit now. The Tianshan asked Lord Demon Venerable extremely puzzled. Why is that? An expectant smile on your face. Now that it has been found, it's useless to hide it. I want to take care of my wife and daughter. I don't have time to go to the devil. Don't come to me again. As soon as this flower comes out, Tianshan's heart suddenly set off a storm. I wondered if he had heard it wrong. Lord Demon is actually married, even have children. That's not possible, is it? After confirming again, the Tianshan's shocked expression gradually turned into joy. Congratulations to the demon lord for tying the knot. Happy little princess. I have said that I am no longer the devil of the devil world. I want to live a movie life with my wife and daughter. Won't go back. You don't have to come to me anymore. I don't want anyone to disturb me and my wife, daughter's life. Do you understand? Night God reluctantly wants to continue to persuade, but was stopped by your pair of demonic stares. Now that you understand, leave quickly. My wife has been waiting for a long time. I guess I'll be in a hurry. I have to get back. However, on your way to Namladu City, Ruo Ryan says he is very hate and loathe magic resistance. It makes you feel very uneasy. But never thought, Night God, this guy's mouth has no door. On the same day, he returned to the devil world and told hearing the news of Night God of the devil world. Everyone present was shocked. As the devil lord of the devil world, the left guardian excited covered his mouth. Great, Lord Demon Lord, he finally got the hang of it. Finally got married. As the devil lord, the left guardian is more quiet. In fact, I have a mother-son affection for you. He's been with you since the beginning. Assist you and then assist you in unifying Capricorn. Surrendered all forces against you. The remaining wishes of his heart, it is to be able to see you get married with your own eyes. Continuation of the descendants. He once picked 30,000 beautiful women in the devil world. Replenish your harem, but you were forcibly dismissed the next day. And he was lectured by you because of it. At this time, he learned about the demon venerable from the mouth of Night God. He immediately, the news that the devil world is about to welcome the whole demon world. Night God hardly stops the moon from being quiet. Will the immortal realm send people to respect the Lord? I told him everything about the shot. After you and everyone present learned about the incident, every face is like frost. Ling Ling's terrifying killing intent. The entire demon god hall was enveloped. You smashed the round table out of thin air. Good idea. How dare someone treat my wife and little princess shot. Yuking Yu who came back to her senses. Only then did he slightly restrain the killing intent on his body to inform the little princess. The plan of the entire demon world. Don't tell anyone about the little princess. Since someone dares to attack the wife and the little princess, then I will never do anything. But Lord Demon Lord said, asking us not to disturb his life. Yuking Yu's mouth slightly rose. I know the order of the devil lord. No martial arts, but I have my way. The more quiet the words are, that's a relief. in this devil world, except for the devil. The second is the high, there are two guardians under the seat, and on the other side, you are already in Nanli City, and King Yuan lived together for a while. And if Ryan has been around since the last incident, I also gave up my intention to leave alone. At the same time, my relationship with you is also now the three of us can sleep together. It looks like a nice family of three. Until the day your family of three hit the street, you spot a few familiar figures. After returning home, put on a simple night god. Walk to your door with something, a little nod to you. It's like saying hello to your new neighbor. If Ryan sees the Tianshan take the initiative to show her kindness, I also waved my hand slightly, as if it were a new neighbor. I'll go get some fruit in the house and say hi to him. You quickly stopped him, my lady. Go buy some fruit for my husband in person, and say hello to him. Just leave this to my husband. Now, as he spoke, he pushed Luo Ryan back home. If this is to let Luo Ryan contact the Tianshan, saw the clue, or the night god with a slippery mouth accidentally revealed his identity. My good days are over. After the smoke leaves, you quickly appeared in the house of the night god. You frowned with a cold face. What are you doing here? Didn't I tell you not to disturb my life? Lord Demon Zun, difficult to follow under the tree. We are ordered to protect the devil, the lady, and the little princess. Always listen to your instructions. The guardian lady and the little princess. Are you saying anyone else is coming besides you? Yes, except for the subordinates, other legion commanders and corps commanders, and generals. The guards have been ordered to disguise their identities, lurking all over the city. This gives you the wrong look. Who gave the order? Report to the Demon Lord. It was an order from the left protector. Sure enough, just got home. I found Yukinyu who had already hidden her identity. He told Luo Ryan that he was close to you. It's you and still falling like smoke sad fishing. Saidi had been wandering for a long time. If the young master refuses to take him in, I had nowhere else to go. You were dumbfounded. I never expected Yukinyu to stay. He even used a bitter trick. Wife, you can't be deceived by him. If you are not used to it, let him go. You turn your head to look at the moment of falling smoke. Even more dumbfounded. I saw that Luo Ryan's eyes were slightly moist, looking at the moon with pity. It doesn't matter. There are still rooms available. Since you are here, let's be together under the spider for now. After saying that, he turned back and glared at you viciously. As if to blame you, how can be so ruthless? After falling like smoke and settling down for you express yourself to your wife. I have something to ask you, Kinyu. After confirming that it fell like smoke, you immediately closed the door. Mingmei asked Yukinyu with a cold face. What is he doing here? I am no longer the devil of the devil world. You don't have to be with me. Yukinyu and Yan, the expression becomes solemn. Get down on one knee, looking up at you. You will always be the only supreme in my devil world. I will always be by your side. If you really want me to wait and leave forever, unless you kill me yourself. After some final hesitation, you sighed helplessly. Get up. Sometimes my subordinates are too loyal. It's not a good thing either. I can't even retire. You acquiesce to their behavior in living in the city. It's just that they have to disguise themselves as humans, doing his own thing in the city. The moon is quiet for the fall. People from the fairy world have no antipathy. In his opinion, as long as the devil likes it, even if you marry a pig demon as your wife, he has no opinion. After, Yukinyu got her wish and reported the fallen leaf red, a face full of incredible joy. Is this the little princess of the devil world? What an honor. That's all. The days seem to have gone back to normal. Demon Hens, also behind the scenes, inquiring about the chasing demon lady's hermit's heart. Until this day, the people of the immortal realm can't stand it anymore. Protector. There are people from the fairy world entering the immortal. Two immortal emperors. They are now approaching in the lady's direction. Listen to their conversation. It seems that they are especially here to bring the wife and the little princess. Yukinyu's expression suddenly became crossed. Keep an eye on them. Let the Tianshan and others stop them before I passed. Don't rush to do it. You are the devil who once killed the 9 immortal jade. He is the celestial empress above 10,000 can be incompatible, but turned into mortals and became husband and wife at this moment. Even gave birth to a lovely daughter. Because the empress doesn't know the identity of your demon lord. And I hate demons very much. So you are ready to hiding his identity as a demon lord for a lifetime. I never wanted to be killed by the fanatical demons because subordinates come to the door. You almost exposed your identity. A large number of demons will be hidden all over the city, disguised as a human, because they learned that someone in the fairy world was going to news that hurt your wife, their daughter, especially came to protect the devil lady and the little princess. You have 3 chapters with them and allowed them to live in the city. But today, the demons in the city have finally discovered traces of the immortals. Listen to their conversation. Say he was going to take away Luo Ryan and his daughter, but these people have no idea. I have been targeted. At this moment, Dao Tianming brought 2 family disciples all the way towards the hazy house. As they crossed the street, Night God pushing a barbecue truck in front of them. Another prisoner appeared in the alley behind Dao Tianming, and the figures of people who are crazy. Others appeared on the eaves on either side, looking down on the 3 of them. Could this be a robbery among mortals? Don't panic until dawn. I wanted to laugh. I didn't expect him to go to the lower. We could also encounter the situation of being robbed. That was really interesting. The 2 family disciples said indifferently. Is it just that the adults want me to wait and deal with them? Dao Tianming waved his hand. He looked at the Dark Night God. And wait for Luo Yen. Do you know who you are facing? If you break your arm and crawl away, I may be able to forgive your rudeness this time. After a moment, I begged and everyone couldn't help but laugh. This is the first time we have been called by bugs. What about ants? These immortal buildings. His final mercy has been treated as a joke. Dao Tianming raised his arm to put pressure on the Tianshan. Just by the slight pressure he exerted, it is enough to turn these ignorant mortals in front of Grinder. terrifying micro pressure. The walls and eaves on both sides of the earthquake are cracking. However, everyone from Night God handled it as if nothing had happened, staring at him like a clown. Dao Tianming and the three were instantly shocked, even if it is suppressed in the human world. With the cultivation base of his predecessor, a few ants to death, shouldn't it be a piece of cake? Dao Tianming seemed to have thought of something. The look began to grow more and more terrified. Seeing this, everyone also showed a ferocious look, terrible murderous smile. If it weren't for Yukin Yuxia, I wish I could have shredded it to the people of Tianming long ago. However, by dawn, I was still thinking about how to get out. Yukin Yu slowly came from the end of the alley. Hear the praise of the night god people for the moon. Tianming's expression suddenly changed. Hurry up and ask the two disciples plug your ears. For hundreds of years, the new demon lord who appeared in the demon world to protectors, he has heard. Left protector is in Daedon of the demon world. The existence of the god who is called the god of death by the two worlds of immortals and demons. It seems that you still know me. Too bad you don't know me well enough. Then Yukin Yu opened her mouth slightly and twisted it. Voice falls. The bodies of the two family disciples next to Dao Tianming. Instantaneous rotation. Distorted the bones hundreds of times. Pipa. The whole body becomes a spiral. Slender twist. Liking's quiet and dignified elegant figure. Step by step towards Daoshan Ming Zhuangzhu. Fractured limbs. With a miserable wailing. Become a hostage at dawn. Falling from the air. Like Chicken Lin. I mentioned him to you, Jinu. Say it before you die. Who are you? Who supported you? Want me to tell you it's impossible? Kind of kill me. Otherwise, in the future, my fairy world will definitely step on your leave none of you filthy demons behind. It's all gone. Facing the provocative insults of Dawn, Yukin Yu looked indifferent. Then the corners of the mouth rise slightly. Show a cruel sneer. At this time, the void of the deep state twisted for a while. The dark constellation attendant emerged, standing respectfully beside Yukin Yu. Tell Tianqing CHU Palace AVIP, don't kill him after he's done everything. Inverted public. Hearing a demon world Chuxing Palace's expression instantly became entered the palace of the devil. It means suffering the cruelest thing in the world. The most painful various criminal laws. At dawn, he quickly shouted, I said, I am Bai Ming Xian, a straight man who met this time family. The lower realm serves the order of the ancestor. Mother and daughter named falling like misty rain. All at the 151st hour of Dao. I took the initiative to inform you and pray to let him go. Like this, but unlike the Wei Han was not afraid of death. A huge contrast. Enough to see the devil, the palace's threat to the people of the celestial realm. Although Dao Jianming informed you of everything he knew, quiet but final, still can't sway. Take off your identity as a guest of the CHU Palace, quiet in a dense forest. A meeting of demons was held and told you about it. Waiting for your demolition at any time. Lord Demon Zun, yesterday after you left, a group of people came from the fairy world. It seems that it is the Eye of the Lady, and the little princess who are chasing words and eyes. The air around me was freezing cold. So do you know who they are? Yes, Lord Demon Lord. That person claimed to be the person who met the Xian family. It belongs to a hermit in the fairy world. The family only needs your permission. Lord Demon Lord. I will immediately gather the army of the devil world to the fairy world to level those ants. Night God and other demons also catalog meanings. Hundreds of bloodthirsty red heads lit up in the darkness. The Taoist family whispered a sentence softly, a sinister smile in the corner of the mouth. Silently memorized the name of Dao Xian's family and his wife's fairy bones and heart. But I haven't come back yet. Quiet. You first let CHU Xingong ask from that guy's mouth to the specific secret location of Xianja. You should also go up and find the Xianja and pay a good visit. His face revealed an acre of smile. The will of Lord Jingzhen. So 3 days went by. Until this evening, a thunder hacked into his own house without warning. Looking up at the sky with a slight frown. One after another of the resplendent golden fantasy immortal doors, an immortal wrapped in fairy light, walk out of the immortal gate. Under the gaze of Jinchai, everyone in Chengdu, falling slowly, forgetting the people who came to the fairy world. The corner of his mouth couldn't help but show a sneer. I haven't gone up to find you yet. You came to the door yourself? Falling smoke on the other side. Purchasing from a pharmacy. When leaving the pharmacy, I found a lightning bolt down to his own house. At the same time, he also discovered the fairy gate. Ryan was suddenly anxious. Immediately flew up and jumped towards the home. This is an old man in a yellow fairy robe, falling vertically from the sky in front of falling like smoke. Roselle. Long time no see. Falling like smoke saw the old man blending the book. The old man before his death was one of the elders of the Taoist family. Is the cultivation base of the late. We didn't expect to get rid of him. The Taoist family does not hesitate to violate the rules to earth in large numbers. Although I know there is no chance of winning, Ruyan is still determined. I took out the accessories and confronted Daoxian. As expected of the former Luotian Empress, I am a straight scholar and to families of the Xian family. Was the disciple killed by the Luotian Empress? If so, that's really me. Xianja Zhaoqiao's Luotian Empress. I have never seen any instructions from the Xianja and family disciples. You went to Xianja to marry me, Lucky. Just do it. You don't have to make such an excuse. Rushan Empress. So far, the old man still advises you to hand over the child. As long as you hand over that child, I can persuade the Lord to give up the pursuit. Then you don't have to live in hiding all day. Falling like smoke is a maze. Spiritual lights burst out of the body without reservation. If you want children, you can, unless I die. It doesn't work. To Xianyan, a thick spiritual power immediately burst out with a sound. Powerful spiritual power is like a Tarzan on his shoulder. The cultivation gap is too huge. Luo Ryan has no power to fight back at all. Just then, a beam of light pierced through the fairy rock. It almost cost him his life. I was startled when I went to Xianyan. Incredible, look at the source of the beam of light. Ruyan also has a face. Doubtfully turned to look at the source of the beam of light. This beam of light is the breath of the devil. Night God in the apron of the barbecue stall. Stepping to Luo Ryan's side. Commander of the first army of the demon world. Night God saw the lady. Luo Ryan looked shocked. The Devil God General of the Devil World actually calls me. I want to see the follow-up treasures in advance. You can click on the lower left, download a light version. Go in and search for the 4 words Adventure Demon. Watch the full text for free. Bowsy fast charge. Immortal army. Do not hesitate to violate the rules of heaven to come just to catch a child. Zyke Immortal didn't expect it. There are a large number of demons and demon gods hidden in the city. And the demons are here to protect this child. Because he is the supreme devil and the child born to the Empress of the Celestial Empress. He had no idea. Until today, the people of the immortal realm forcibly opened the passage. Only the demons hidden in the city had to take action. I even heard the demon general of the demon world call him madam. At this time, he slowly opened his mouth between Xianyan and said that the Luotian that I joined the devil race. It seems to be true, but this is the case. Ruyan was also very surprised. Why does the devil god of the devil world call himself his wife? Unequal Ruo smoke reacts to Xianyan. Two-handed seal. Suddenly above the sky, countless huge meteorites broke through the clouds like a meteor shower. Towards the night god, the rain falls like smoke. People below Chengdu in the south, and they all run around in terror. The night god, who has become a true saint at this moment, doesn't still indifferent. The next second, hundreds of rays of light appeared behind countless deaths. In the blink of an eye, all the stones were devoured by the Not even a single bit of gravel has fallen. Go to Xianyan and stare at him in shock. Unbelievable. His immortal technique is enough to destroy the world. Easily resolved by the night god. Night god stared at Xianyan with cold eyes. Slowly raise your arm and aim at him. Smoke out. Voice falls. The Qianshan's palm shot a beam of light, passing through the air, directly penetrated half of the body between Dao Xian, almost drowned half of his body. Stelhart, I know that I am not the opponent of Night God. He hurriedly roared to the sky. Let the remaining elders help. Fortunately, at the several demon generals hidden in the city also rushed to help. Busy, ha ha ha. Bugs of the fairyland, I've been waiting for you for a long time. At this time, the moon is also walking. The void came to Luo Ryan's side alone. Night God and everyone saw the arrival of Moon. They all gave a very respectful address. Protector Zuo, falling like smoke, can't help but look. I chain Protector. The moon is quiet as usual. Yes, Mr. Luo Ryan called Luo Ryan lifetime. Luo Ryan smiled bitterly. Hard work and mixed flavors. Yuking Yu, who has always lived by his side, it turned out to be a demon. He was the only one buried in the valley from start to finish. Yuking Yu knew. At this moment, Luo Ryan must be a little confused. But he just smiled. There's not much to explain. No matter how much he explains, better than Lord Demon Lord himself. Madam, explain. If smoke at this moment, the heart is like a tangled garbled code. But now he's more concerned about the safety of Luo Hong. Anyway, bring the child back first. Let's talk about the rest later. King Yu, I'll ask you here. King Yu answered slightly. Leave everything to me. Lady Ruyan is Lady of the Ring. She is also his daughter-in-law. King Yu treats him as respectful as the devil. Huan Qiu licked the blood on her hands. Bugs of the fairyland, have fun with me. And the leaves on the other side are red. This is also at risk of being kidnapped. Fortunately, the few demons by his side was desperately held back by Xian Shui Miao just waited until Luo Ryan came. Fallen leaves are red to see. Immediately crying little she ran to his feet in fear. Shima is preparing to launch another offensive. At this time, there was a vastness that hit the heart. Starhawk is present. Almost everyone has felt it before. Unknown, inexplicable pressure. They were lying on the ground involuntarily, only falling like smoke, and 3 people can barely support it. Crook body. A look Xianjin can't feel the silk. The man with no spiritual power fluctuation arrived and has his hands on his back and the others. If Ryan sees this person, Jiao Rong immediately loses the one from the Taoist family who must die. A 1,000-year-old ancestor. Dao Xian Tianhua. Luo Ryan felt hopeless and powerless at this moment. Daoxian Tianhua sees fallen leaves can't help but light up. This child is competing with the body of immortals and demons. Fallen leaf red held fallen smoke's feet tightly and the milk fiercely stared at Dao Xian Tianhua. Although this is the first time I have seen Dao Xian Tianhua, but anyone who bullies their mother is a bad person. Dao Xian Tianhua said, as long as Luo Ryan obediently calls the child and follow him back to the fairy world to be punished, he can promise to spare everyone here. Falling like an evil looks extremely determined. In that case, forgive me for refusing. No one will take my child away. What's the point of you being so persistent? Apologize to Tianhua's unremitting Highland. Since you are unwilling to return to the fairy world to be punished, then I will kill you on the spot. Then a wave is enough to crush. All the micropressure in front of me falls like a crowd attacked, and just then, a cold voice suddenly came from midair. What a big breath, with the sound. There's also a mindless and huge micropressure, completely overshadowed the micropressure of Dao Xian. A sea of crows. Make Dao Xian. Tianhua's calm face revealed a hint of surprise. Body shape. He was also forcibly forced to retreat a few feet away by Wei. You put your hands on your back and gradually rise to the ground from the sky. Luo Ryan's beautiful eyes are staring at your back. Husband, turn around. Showing a touch towards Luo Ryan. Soft and charming smile. The wife is no longer a husband. Don't think about doing stupid things. Luo Ryan is looking at you. I don't know what to say. The pillow person who gets a long day and night in front of him looks like, but it feels a little strange. Reminds me of the huge zero pressure scene just now and what the night god said before. Like smoke, I have also vaguely guessed your identity. You smile slightly. Don't worry, lady. After all this is solved, can I explain it to you slowly for my husband?